Hi, my name's Navina, and in this video we'll be discussing how different universities use your UCAT score. So first things first, different universities consider the UCAT in different ways. Some universities have a UCAT cutoff score, and some give you points based on how you've done. Some also do not really consider it unless there is a tie-breaking situation. When you sit for the UCAT exam, you will receive your UCAT score as soon as you've completed the exam, and you can use this information to confirm which medical or dental school you would like to apply to. Most medical and dental schools do not have a minimum UCAT score published, but the importance they place on the exam varies. A good score is hard to determine as it depends on which medical schools you're applying to. The average 2020 score across all candidates was 2,483, and you can find the decile thresholds on the UCAT website. I've included the link in the description below. In 2019, a score of 2,610 and above would put you in the top 30% of all candidates and would be considered a competitive score. But these change each year, so it's really important to keep checking the UCAT website when you've just received your score. Now let's look at how some universities use the UCAT score and some guidance as to where to apply. Medical and dental schools in whole consider the exam as holistic, so don't be discouraged to apply to one if you've only just passed the threshold. There are many different factors that the universities will consider when shortlisting you for the interview stage. So first things first, let's talk about universities that have a UCAT minimum score. So currently, Kiel do not consider the bottom 20% of the UCAT. Once again, you can check where this decile is on the UCAT website. Manchester requires the score to be in the top third of the cohort. Sheffield requires a minimum score of 2,420. For St Andrews, the lowest score historically has been 600 overall, so that's 2,400. Queensmary, London do not consider the bottom 30% of the cohort, and Plymouth have placed the threshold for 2021 entry at 2,400. Now let's move on to universities that do not consider Band 4 in the situational judgment test. So several universities that do not consider Band 4 in the situational judgment test include Anglia Ruskin University, Hull York Medical School, Kiel University, University of Leicester, University of Liverpool. However, Band 4 is acceptable for international students only, University of Manchester and University of Nottingham. Now let's talk about universities to apply to with a strong UCAT score. So this means universities that place greater importance on UCAT scores if you've done well in them. So the University of Birmingham uses a decile system to rank students and is a very competitive university. For the University of Bristol, in 2019, students with a score of 665 or above were invited to interview, which is way above last year's average score. For the University of Dundee, the average UCAT score for applicants invited to interview was 685 in 2019, which was well above the average score for this year's cohort as well. King's College London ranks students based on their score, and it is also a highly competitive university. For the University of Manchester, top 30% of the UCAT cohort will definitely be invited to an interview if they have met the minimum academic requirements. For the University of Newcastle, the UCAT is a key factor in shortlisting students for interviews and giving out offers. The University of Nottingham gives students a score based on their performance. So starting from the very top, 800 to 900 gives you 9 points, 701 to 800 gives you 8 points, 601 to 700 gives you 7 points, 501 to 600 gives you 6 points, 401 to 500 gives you 5 points, and 301 to 400 gives you 4 points. For Queensmary, there is a 50-50 weighting applied to the UCAT and academic strengths based on UCAS tariffs or your previous degree. For the University of St Andrews, people with the top 400 UCAT scores for the cohort will be invited to interview. Now let's talk about universities to apply to with a lower UCAT score. There are universities to look out for if you feel you haven't done so well in the exam. These include Cardiff, Queen's University Belfast, Sunderland, Central Lancashire, and Buckingham. Ultimately, the UCAT is just one part of the application process. Despite what your score is, make sure to congratulate yourself as the exam is a tough hurdle to clear. Also, having said this, make sure to focus on the end goal and keep working effectively. Remember, there are other things that can strengthen your application, such as your interview and your grades, so keep on top of those wherever possible. Feel free to post any questions you might have about the UCAT down below, like this video, comment, and subscribe.